Most people already know something is wrong. They can feel it. They work, they save, they try to be responsible. And yet, every year, they seem to fall further behind. This video is not about politics, it's not about ideology, and it's not about blaming individual people. It's about structure. If you understand the structure, the correct response becomes obvious. The modern financial system is built on inflationary currency. That means the money you earn is designed to lose value over time. This isn't an accident. It's not mismanagement. It's not corruption in the cartoon sense. It's how the system functions. If you store your savings in an inflationary currency, you are guaranteed to lose purchasing power over time. Guaranteed. Not might, not could, will. If you are a wage earner, you are already on the wrong side of the equation. Your income is fixed. It is taxed immediately. It adjusts slowly, and it never keeps pace with asset inflation. Then if you store what little surplus you have in cash, you get hit twice. First, you receive money last. Second, you store it in a form that decays. This is how the Cantillon effect finishes the job. You don't just earn less. You save in a losing container. People will offer alternatives. They'll say to just save cash for liquidity. They'll say to invest in stocks. They'll say to buy real estate. They'll say to use crypto. Each of these has problems for ordinary people. Land can preserve value, but it's illiquid, high friction, and has a massive barrier to entry. It comes with taxes, maintenance, and jurisdictional risk. It is not a realistic solution for someone renting an apartment with limited capital. Stocks are volatile, financialized, and fully inside the system. They require intermediaries, regulatory exposure, and trust in market stability. They can work for some people, but they do not remove you from systemic risk. Crypto promises sovereignty, but in practice introduces extreme volatility, technical risk, regulatory uncertainty, and custody issues. Most people do not grind labor for years just to park it in something that can drop 60% in a few months. Gold and silver are different. They are non-inflationary assets. They are finite, physical, and no one else's liability. They don't require permission. They don't require trust in institutions. They don't require continuous financial infrastructure. They simply exist. That's the point. Let's make this concrete. In 2018, two friends, John and Paul, are in the same position, same job, same income, same expenses. Each has $10,000 in savings. John keeps his $10,000 in cash. He values liquidity. He trusts the system. He is afraid of price swings and believes holding dollars is safe. Paul understands something John does not. He understands that holding inflationary currency guarantees loss. So instead of holding cash, Paul converts his savings into precious metals. In 2018, gold is roughly $1,250 per ounce. Silver is roughly $15 per ounce. Paul allocates his $10,000 with a 3-to-1 bias toward gold. He puts 75%, or $7,500, into gold. At roughly $1,250 per ounce, that buys him 6 ounces of gold. He puts the remaining 25%, or $2,500, into silver. At roughly $15 per ounce, that buys him about 166 ounces of silver. Paul doesn't do this to get rich. He does it to preserve purchasing power. Now fast forward to today. John still has $10,000, but what does that $10,000 buy? Housing costs are dramatically higher, food costs are higher, energy is higher, insurance is higher, healthcare is higher. The number didn't change, but the value did. Paul still has the same 6 ounces of gold and 166 ounces of silver. Gold today is roughly $4,300 per ounce. Silver is roughly $77 per ounce. Paul's 6 ounces of gold are now worth about $25,800. His 166 ounces of silver are now worth about $11,000. Together, Paul's metals are worth nearly $40,000. John has $10,000 that buys far less than it did in 2018. Paul has metals that have not only kept up with inflation but slightly outpaced it. Who fared better against inflation? Who is the one that is feeling the pain more at the pump, the grocery store, when the rent is due? I pity the fool who saves in inflationary money. Over the same period where the cost of living has roughly doubled in many categories, Paul's savings have increased by about 400% in nominal terms, preserving existing purchasing power and even gaining some. John did nothing wrong. He just chose a container that leaked. Paul didn't speculate, he didn't trade, he didn't chase yield. He simply refused to store his labor in a form designed to decay. This is the difference between numbers and purchasing power. Cash feels stable because the number doesn't move, but stability of the number is not stability of value. Precious metals don't make you rich. They prevent you from being erased. They give you portability. They give you optionality. They give you independence from any single institution. Not because you are a criminal, but because systems fail. History is full of capital controls, withdrawal limits, bail-ins, and currency resets. You don't need paranoia, you need redundancy. Precious metals eliminate counterparty risk. They are not a promise, they are not a claim. They are not dependent on anyone else's solvency. They simply exist. They can be held, stored, transported, converted, worn, or collateralized. They are wealth you can physically interact with, not just numbers on a screen. Does this make you invincible? No. If you are a wage earner, you are still exposed to rising costs and asset inflation you do not own. But storing savings in precious metals stops the bleeding. You move from guaranteed loss to preservation. That alone changes outcomes over time. This is not about getting rich. It's about not being silently drained. The system does not need to take your money. It only needs you to store it incorrectly. Cash guarantees loss. Assets preserve value. Gold and silver are the lowest friction, lowest barrier, non-inflationary assets available to ordinary people. That is why they have survived thousands of years. If you store your labor in a currency designed to decay, you will lose. Not because you failed, not because you were lazy, not because you were stupid, but because the container was broken. Saving yourself economically does not require genius. It requires choosing a container that does not leak.